No one person can change the world, but one add up. Sylvie Guillaume, French ballet dancer. All right. Good morning. Welcome to another episode of the Liberty Dad podcast, a discussion on politics and culture. Tuning in live. Thank you so much for giving me your time so early. You know, we need a break sometimes from all the negative things in the world. And I try to do that. Like the goal is kind of sometimes to do it like once a week, but I don't always get to it. So today we're getting back to it. It's been a while since I have presented you some positive news, some things to be inspired about. I mean, this week I've talked about like a brutal fight. I've talked about like TikTok and, this ban on TikTok, just all these negative things. And, it can kind of weigh down on you. And we want to make sure that we balance it out and remember that there is lots of good in the world. There is a lot of good. So we're going to talk about that today. All right. I think I'm getting out of the woods with this voice and, the clearing my throat and all that. A little bit of a residual cough from being sick, but that's okay. We will manage. All right. So, what do we've got first up here? Well, this one comes out of Maryland, this story, and it's pretty simple and short and sweet, but it's kind of interesting. And it's actually interesting for a couple of reasons for which I will show you. So let's go ahead and play this little clip here. It's about 30 seconds or so.
Here's your morning, Joel. It's a bald eagle rescue in Calvert County, Maryland. An animal control officer got a call about an eagle that had been struck by a car. The driver stopped, checked it out, and the eagle appeared to be fine, but was stuck to the grill of that vehicle. So a little teamwork between the sheriff's office in Calvert County and the animal control, and the eagle was safely removed, checked out, found to be okay and in good health, and then released into the wild. That picture on the right, great. It's just pretty incredible, right? When you see somebody actually holding that bald eagle.
I saw you share that, and then I reshared it because I can't get over the picture either.
And a miracle, the guy was in good shape,
right?
I mean, didn't look too great against the grill.
So, no.
Good news story there.
Guys trying to be funny over there, like didn't look too great against the grill. Okay, whatever. But no, that was kind of neat. But what makes it even more neat, and I was kind of debating, like, this really like a super positive story. I mean, it's not about humans, people. It's about a bird. And, okay, like animals get hit by cars and planes and stuff like that all the time. So, but I decided to play it anyway because so here's what I do. I go and I research for positive news stories, and I try to make sure that they're relatively recent, like within the last week or two, if I can help it. If it's a really good story, then, maybe a month, because I don't want to give you a story that's like 7 years old and be like, yeah, there's some good news in the world from 7 years ago. So as I was researching this story, because sometimes when you go to if you like go to Google and you type in positive news and you go to some of these links, you'll find that it's like the story was presented like maybe within the last few days. But then when you go dig it up, sometimes you find that the story is actually rather old. So some of these outlets are cheating. So I have to go through and I have to do my diligence. So in the process of doing my diligence, I can't say these words today. In the process of doing due diligence, I actually came across a similar story from right around here, not here in Jacksonville, but from the neighboring county in Clay County. And I played the video and I was like, wait a minute, that doesn't seem right. I was like, that doesn't seem like what I just. So I had to do a little bit of looking. So here's this other story that's very similar.
Someone get me out of here. The look on this bald eagle's face is priceless. It somehow flew in front of the vehicle and got stuck in the front grille of a car in Florida. First responders were called to free the poor thing. It was then brought to an animal sanctuary to make sure it was okay. Talk about a fender, I mean feather bender. For InsideEdition.com, I'm Lee Sheps.
All right. So that actually happened like literally 7 years ago. And it was in a neighboring county, Clay County, here in Florida. And so I first saw that and I was like, wait a minute. I was like, that's not what I thought I just read. And so then I went and I looked and I realized like, oh, okay. Actually, this is a different story. And then it made me wonder, like, okay, in 7 years, I just, briefly, I didn't do a whole lot of research, but in 7 year time span, I was able to find two stories about bald eagles being hit by a car. So I'm like, I wonder how often this actually happens, right? Like, not even just a bird. I mean, I know birds hit cars all the time, but specifically a bald eagle and hitting it and getting stuck in the grill. Like that specific thing. Because I mean it's happened twice in 7 years. So I'm just like, how often has it actually happened overall? I don't know. But it's always good, like when an animal is, it's not good when an animal is injured, but it's always good when an animal can go back to its life even after having an accident such as that. So that's a nice little story just to kind of warm things up today. The rest of the stories are going to be about people because the idea is that we touch a little grass, right? Like it's getting warmer here in Jacksonville, here in Florida. It's no longer like this frigid, 50s and 60s for me. And I know my northern folks are going to be like, seriously, dude, 50, 60, that, like that's like spring for you. But it's not spring for me. It's like bitter weather. And when it gets lower than that, I don't even want to leave the house or even get out of bed. But at any rate, it's getting warmer. And so we're all going to be able to go out and touch grass. But in the meantime, or, when you're tuning in, watching my show, I want to make sure to occasionally help you out a little bit and give you some good news stories. So, what do we have next? This next story, I'm going to have to read it to you because I didn't see any videos, but I will put it up on the screen. But this one it was kind of cool. I'm not going to lie. I actually like this one because I often tell people that I want to live to be 100 years old. And people are like, dude, seriously, I don't want no, like this happens every single time. Somebody sure enough says, well, I don't want to be in a wheelchair on oxygen, barely able to look around and going in my pants. And I'm like, why would you think that was the 100-year-old situation that I wanted to experience? Like that was your first thought was like, I want to be 100. You're going to be in a wheelchair, soiling yourself. And, yeah, and that's the life you want. Like, no, I want to be an active 100. And as it turns out, there's a story here that we can look at about being an active 100. So here it is. This it comes out of Sudan, and it says meet the 110-year-old Sudanese refugee Fatima, who is helping other women achieve financial freedom. Now, don't you think about that? Just the title. Just think about it. Like 110, and she's actively helping other women achieve financial freedom. That's the kind of 100 I'm talking about, right? Like the kind where you're still active and doing. Like I usually tell people, I'm like, I want to be the George Burns 100, where you're walking around, with a smirk on your face and a stogie hanging out of your lips, right? Like that's the kind of 110 or 100, whatever. Well, that's the 100 that I'm aiming for. So let's see what this story. So here's a picture of Fatima. Not bad looking for 110. Now I have a feeling I'm not going to age that well, but I'll try. In Cairo, Egypt, a group of refugee women meet regularly, pooling their money together and making financial decisions for the good of others. Out of the 29 women, Fatima is by far the oldest at the age of 110. Despite being a centenarian, Fatima looks at least 40 years younger, with a passion for life to match. She has been affectionately given the nickname, I don't know if I'm gonna say this right, Umina, by her group, which means mother. It's a fitting title, not just because of her age. Fatima is a mother of 7. She was also the first person to open a school for girls in her hometown of Makal in Sudan. Fatima belongs to one of the many village savings and loan association groups that CARE, an anti poverty and human rights charity, has worked with around the world since 1991. Each group has between 15 to 25 people, the majority of which are women who meet regularly to save their money in a safe space. The money is used to support each other, to set up businesses, negotiate fair prices in the marketplace, advocate for gender equality in their communities, and pursue public office. By 2030, CARE International hopes to have supported over 50 million people to build their businesses by providing training and savings, loans, and financial literacy. Okay, so again, this is Fatima, 110 years old, and actively helping other women with financial freedom. Like, I, look, these are things that are near and dear to my heart. Like I like financial freedom. I think everybody should seek it. And I like the idea of growing old to 110 and being able to still walk around and be active with people around you. So this is a fascinating story. And with any luck, I will make it to 110 and I will be doing something for people, helping somebody out. Or I'll make it to, in the 100 area and I'll just be a crotchety old man and I'll be like, rah, rah, I'll be like that Simpsons cartoon with, man yells at cloud. Like that's going to be me. I'll lift up my fist and I'll like, rah, 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 So one way or another, though, hopefully I will be 100 and I will be active, whether I'm actively yelling at people or actively helping them. One of those is going to be one of those will apply. So we'll see which one it is. I'm 45 now, so a few years before I get there. All right, what else we got? Well, this is a very heartwarming story, and we always I am a huge critic of public schools. Not a fan of them. Okay. And on any given day, you can probably find, probably within in any given week, you can probably find something on Twitter where I'm criticizing the concept of public schools. But on the other hand, we also have to remember there are good things that happen in public schools. I know my libertarian peers are going to be like aghast to hear that. Like, DL, how could you say that? We got to be honest, right? We have to be honest with what's going on in the world around us. We cannot make the world a better place unless we are, accurate and honest about what's going on. And sometimes that means conceding and saying, yes, there are good things that happen even in the public school system. So here's this story from a bus driver, right? And I think just this week I saw a video of a fight. There's always fights, a fight on a school bus. And a lot of people were angry, and I get it. It was a mismatched fight. But this shows just what we should be expecting out of people that work on this. This is what we should expect from our bus drivers, from our school staff, so on and so forth. This sort of behavior, this sort of kindness. Let's play that video really quickly.
He came around the corner, his face lit up. It was the biggest smile that I recognized every morning. I was like, that's Levi. any normal day when I pull up to the bus stop, Levi's like, wave me in. He's like, come on, so I can stop right in front of him. And this day he didn't wave me in. I noticed him sitting down on the ground by himself. He looked up at me, face full of tears, and he said, I don't have any pajamas. And I said, what? And he said, I don't have any pajamas. And I just stopped. And when he went to go sit down, it weighed on me. It sat with me for the longest. I was like, it's pajama day. All kids should participate in pajama day. So after my run, I stopped by Family Dollar. He seen me and he said, you're my bus driver. I was like, yeah, little man, come here. I said, will you try these on when you get back to your classroom and have a good day? And he hugged them. I didn't hear no more from him until, the next day. I didn't even know which ones he put on until I seen the pictures and I cried. Something so little as pajamas made his world. It's more acts like this that we need for our generation, our future kids. And I'm glad I was able to help.
Very heartwarming. I love it. I love seeing those kind of stories. There's a certain reality that we have to accept. Not everybody is going to have, and that can go, in this particular case, it appears that this young man didn't have pajamas, a material thing. Maybe his parents didn't have a lot of money and they couldn't afford pajamas. So he just slept, who knows how he sleeps. Right. And, sometimes people don't have maybe a parent has passed away. Maybe, one of the parents wasn't such a good parent, whatever the case may be. But there's always going to be something that, um, there's always going to be an opportunity for people to help one another. No matter how much, like, my utopia world is one where everybody has what they need. Nobody's sad, but that's not a reality, nor will it ever be a reality. So the way that we can improve this world is simply by small acts of kindness. And, and I've played stories before that are similar to this. Like I've played stories where, people give money, randomly at a grocery store. They're just like, hey, could you use $100? And they like very wealthy people. Um, but maybe you're not wealthy. Maybe you don't have money, right? Maybe you are not somebody that could even go buy pajamas for another little kid, somebody else's kid, to help them out at pajama day. And that's fine. We all have some area where we can contribute, and we just need to look for those opportunities. There will never be a scarcity of opportunity to help people. And it might be, if you're wealthy, you might be able to give $100 to some random person in a grocery store. If you have a little extra change, you might be able to buy some little kid some pajamas, or maybe, just maybe, you don't have that, but you can help a little old lady across the street, right? Like, there's always an opportunity. We should always be looking for that, because the world that we want, the utopia that we would like, is built one good deed at a time. And so long as we're seeking a good deed at a time, then we will be able to contribute to that 1 + 1 + 1 that adds up. You remember the quote from the beginning of the show here. And that's kind of what this positive news is about. It's just like, now some of the news, like the one I'm about to show you, that's more in the line of duty, but some of it is not in the line of duty. And the thing is, it doesn't matter. A good deed is a good deed, whether we kind of expect that from you or we don't. Now, I won't lie, it does have a little bit more warm feeling when it's unexpected, right? The bus driver, he it comes across as a bigger gesture of kindness when a bus driver goes out and buys pajamas for a little kid so that he can enjoy the day at school. And let's be honest, like, we kids want to enjoy life. And the better that we can help them, I think the better off our future generations will be. Not only just in how they approach the world, but in the things that they do in the world. Because, they'll remember those acts of kindness, and then hopefully they will, and they will, that would be kind of like putting it forward, and then they will grow up to do acts of kindness as well. All right. So the next story that I have here, where did it go? Let's go back here. And so this one is in the line of duty. So it's not exactly, man, there's all these ads and everything all over here. So it's not exactly an unprompted one. This is kind of one that's kind of expected, but I think there's some value still with it nonetheless. So let's take a look at what we got here. So we have like, doesn't even tell you, there's no header. Some of these websites, I tell you what. Tell you what. All right. Hero firefighters rescue driver trapped in semi truck dangling off bridge. It says, look, as if the picture doesn't kind of incite you to look. All right. So let's see what we've got here. So there's a picture. This this truck veered off the road and got wedged and was dangling. And the truck driver was still in the cab. And then a firefighter went down to help. So dramatic footage from downtown Louisville, Kentucky last week. And this was posted. When was this posted? March 10th. So this is relatively recent, of course. Last week showed a semi-tractor trailer truck dangling over the water after nearly plummeting off the Clark Memorial Bridge. The Louisville firefighter was on the scene within Louisville Fire Department was on the scene within 3 minutes and devised a plan to rescue the driver who was still trapped inside. So let's go down here. There's a video, and we will play the video. That's not the video. We want to play this one. So let's go ahead and make this full screen and play. Man, I tell you what, that's wild. I mean, could you imagine? Imagine if you were driving and I've driven a tractor trailer before. Um Not professionally. I did it with the military. And I didn't do it very long because I don't particularly care for it. But I just can only imagine what it would feel like to be driving in the city and then all of a sudden you're dangling over a bridge, basically thinking about like, is this the end? And then of course, is there any does anybody ever wonder, like nobody wonders. This is exactly why firefighters are so loved. These kind of stories, right? Like there's you could probably go through, and I could probably do several shows on just, show after show after show on firefighters who have done, these kind of heroic acts, and it's just awesome. Now, again, it was in the line of duty, so I understand that it's a little different than, somebody who, risked their life that doesn't have to, that has not put themselves in a position to say, I will do this. But nonetheless, I think this is just heroic and just awesome. And it gives me the good vibes to know that, hey, if, somebody's out and about, me, a friend of mine, whoever, that there are good people that are willing to, you know, put themselves in danger for our safety. And I think that's something that we should just, keep in mind when we're reading all these news stories. Like, yeah, there's a lot of bad in the world, but there's a lot of good like this. Speaking of bad, so this story started out bad, but ended up kind of amazing. It's it's hard to even uh, contemplate this particular one. So this is a story of two women, and they have this special bond from the most unlikely story. So let's see what that story holds.
Finally, CBS's Steve Hartman goes on the road with a story about the power of forgiveness.
Nakia Cherry in the black and Stacy Green in the bright may look like besties from way back, but this is a bond born from bitterness.
I love you so much, Miss Stacy.
Do a twirl.
4 years earlier, Stacy's mom, Rosie, was killed in a car crash. The other driver, Nakia Cherry, was doing 73 in a 45. Atlanta area police charged her with vehicular homicide, and Stacy was glad to see her suffer.
Yes, I was consumed.
By what?
Anger, sadness, loss.
I mean, Stacy was furious.
Let's see.
Attorneys Jeb Butler and Tom Giannotti represented Stacy in the civil trial, and they made sure to keep the parties in the case apart.
I was worried that if they got together, the result would be incendiary. I was very pleasantly wrong.
Instead, last October, Stacy went up to Nakia in this courthouse. She thought of what her minister mother would say, and then told Nakia, "I forgive you."
And when I forgave her, it's like I was reborn again.
You make it sound like a miracle.
Nothing short.
It was an extraordinary step, but only the first step. From then to now, Stacy has gone so far beyond the words, "I forgive you," to the actions of, "I love you."
She's like a godmama to me. I talk to her every day.
Nakia lost everything after the crash. She now lives in a motel.
So I am committed to her life getting better.
Like how?
So I've helped her with money for food.
You've given her money.
Yes. Rent. I was her daughter's secret Santa. I booked a trip for her to go to Miami for her 40th birthday.
Her attorneys say they've never heard of anything like it.
She's remarkable. Remarkable person.
And all that's great. That separates conversation from conviction.
Stacy didn't have to do that. I'm gonna cry.
Actually, Stacy says she did have to do all that, or she could have never forgiven herself.
We got to make the best out of this situation.
Steve Hartman, on the road in Atlanta.
All right. Another heartwarming story. Like, I get it. Like, if somebody was driving, at 73 miles an hour in a 45 zone and they ended up crashing and killing my mom, I would probably be pretty bitter at them as well. I'm not even sure that I would be willing to forgive them. And I think we should always try to do our best to forgive others, not so much for their benefit, but for our own. And you'll hear that frequently from people, like, forgiveness is not about them. It's about you. But whatever it is that we do, we should always try to make the world the best place it can be. If nothing else, for our own selves. Because if we're making the world a better place, truly a better place for ourselves, then we will be inadvertently making it a better place for someone else. If you think back to some of these stories that I showed you, think back about the pajama day, right? With the bus driver that wanted to give this little kid pajamas. Like he said it weighed on him, right? So you could even look at it and say, well, he just wanted to make himself feel a little bit better. And by doing so, he helped somebody else, right? We spend too much time worrying about motivation and all this other, and, what we need to focus on is just simply making the world a better place. And we can start with ourselves and see where that leads us. And maybe it only leads to just yourself feeling good. But if you're making the world a better place, even if only for you, and I mean truly, I don't mean, I know somebody might come along and say, okay, well, if I steal this car from somebody else, the world's a better place for me. That's not what I mean. I mean, if you make the world a better place for yourself, you plant some flowers out in your yard just for you. At a minimum, you're not adding negativity to the world. You're adding positivity, right? At a bare minimum. And at the most, you'd never know the lives that you'll touch of somebody else. So that's it for positive news today. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you found this episode maybe not so much informative, but at least inspiring. And I hope that it's inspired you to go out, touch grass, do something good in the world, even if it's only helping a little old lady cross the street. You don't have to necessarily have money. You don't necessarily have to go through a tragedy. There are many, many ways to make this world a better place. And I hope that you will go and do that today. Be sure to catch me Monday through Friday, 7 a.m., for an informed discussion on politics and culture. And then make sure that you're subscribed to my YouTube channel. You can go to, or my Rumble channel if you prefer. You can go to youtube.libertydad.com. You can go to rumble.libertydad.com. And while you're there subscribing, go ahead and throw me in a comment and let me know how I'm doing. I do enjoy reading the comments. Lastly, if you are a champion of liberty, your business is people and your product is liberty. I want you to have a great week. Go out and change the world, even if only one small piece of it. But for now, I'm out.